Every time our athletes walk into this weight room, they're going to be pushed to the max.
Let's go! Let's go!
The barbell hasn't changed in over 100 years. I can take a 25-pound plate, and we'll go out on the turf, and I'll have you hating life. We talk about straining your gut, pushing past that comfort level. I want a lot of energy. What better breeding ground is there for being a success in life than the weight room?
Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and this is episode number 265. I want to thank you guys for listening each week. Really appreciate those of you that like, share, comment. Just helps us to continue to highlight the great people we have in our profession. Also want to thank our sponsors, and specifically Samson, for bringing this episode to you for free. We only partner with companies that I believe in, both the product and the people, and Samson definitely fits the bill there. This week I'm joined by a friend of mine, Dan Baker. If you don't know who Dan Baker is, then you need to get out of the profession right now. But he's the president of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association. He was with Brisbane for 19 years. He's worked with pretty much every sport imaginable: field hockey, netball, MMA, athletics, on and on and on. But just a great ambassador for our profession. I appreciate you coming on the show, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Ron. Hello to everyone out there listening.
Usually you can catch Dan on the surfboard or travel in the world, but I was able to pin him down for a little bit. But, Dan, I usually ask the question, what experience that you've had in your background best defines you. But, I mean, you spent so much of your career at Brisbane, 19 years. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, how do you last in one spot for 19 years in this profession?
Get results.
Well, 4 championships, that definitely helped things for sure. But in this profession, it's so hard to stay anywhere for as long. I mean, you obviously had built great relationships and the whole deal. What advice would you have for a young coach trying to have a sustained career in one location?
Make sure you get results and have good relationships with people, and be happy with what you're doing. A lot of guys want to move into management positions or whatever. I just like being a strength conditioning coach. I didn't want to be the high performance manager or anything like that. I like being a strength conditioning coach. So there was no other position. There was no promotion or anything for me. I was at exactly where I wanted to be at. So I was pretty happy in life.
Yeah, I mean, so make the big time where you're at, right? I mean, wherever you're at, make it the dream job, and it takes an even better dream job to get you out of it. Then, I guess. Yeah,
everyone. I talked to too many young coaches today. Don't want to work with the 17 to 21-year-old athletes. They want to work with a higher level. The 17 to 21-year-old athletes, if you can work with them for as long as you can, it's so much fun. You make good gains there. If you can invest 3, 4, 5 years, a lot of those athletes you train then will make it to the pro teams or the pro level, and then they will request that you come up. So your growth will be organic. If you've done a good job with the 17 to 21-year-olds, they'll reward you. They'll look for you when they're in the pros or something.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But I spent most of my career in college. You don't have that much success or have the reach that you've had in this profession without making a few mistakes along the way. What's one of the biggest mistakes you've made and how you learned from it?
But the second week I was there in the Brisbane Broncos pro team, one of the big superstar players was late for training, and we're very strict on discipline. Professional rugby, it's very almost military in its discipline. And I got in a yelling contest across the room with him about being late, and he had to do an extra session on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. or something, and he's yelling back to me, and all the other younger guys who were there thinking, oh, well, great, it's going to be a fight between a coach and a player, which in rugby they love that stuff.
Right.
And he's a very large man. And it didn't end up in a fight, but I realised then I'm new in the job, and I'm trying to assert authority, and he's a young superstar on big money, and he's trying to assert that he's a top dog, and he wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to back down. at the end of the session, we actually both went up to each other and apologised for our behaviours. Me and yelling out to him like that, and him, saying stuff to me. And I realised, although we had to have conversations with these guys when they do something undisciplined, like turn up late, don't do it in public across the room most of the time. Go up to them and walk up to them and say, listen, mate, your behaviour is unacceptable and being late. We've got a whole other guys here on time. You got the most money. You can afford to get here on time. These guys, or whatever. So I should have just done it more privately. So that's what I learned then, But then again, some people say to me, the other people there say, oh, that was a defining moment when you weren't going to back down. So I've heard it the other way, that they enjoyed how I handled it, the other people, because it also got me respect from a new guy in the job. So, but I would go back and change it, and I still think I would have got respect anyhow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, I always say the same thing. You confuse emotion with passion. You're trying to show how passionate you are and how much you want to hold people accountable to a higher standard. So you have an emotional response, and oftentimes emotions escalate and it can get away from you, but it doesn't mean you need to hold them any less accountable, right? You could have pulled them aside and said what was going on.
No.
He was late. Yeah. There's accountability to that, in that message. It's just powerful for sure. Well, Dan, you spent a lot of time, I think you even did your PhD work on velocity-based training, and you speak quite a bit about that around the world at this point. There's a lot of young coaches that listen to this. They probably know velocity-based training even better than I do, but for the coaches that don't, why is it something that we should be concerned with about as strength and conditioning coaches?
I just say use velocity measures. You don't do base training on velocity, but we have ways of looking at effort and performance. We have sets and reps and percentage 1 RM and effort level. Whether it's an RP set is RP 7, 8, 9, 10. Velocity just interlinks all those things. So your best rep in your set tells you basically what your current strength level is, and your last rep in your set tells you the effort level, or whether it's a 7, 8, 9, or 10 effort level. So you can just link those things, and they give you really good insight into what's going on. So, for example, Ron, we talk about, we do a lot of traveling, back from a long commute, 30-something hours from London. Doing a speed workout, my velocities are down 0.1 meter per second. I know straight away that when I do my heavy squats this week, I'm going to have to take my squats down. 0.1 meter per second is about 5%,
right.
7%. So without even doing my heavy squat workout for this week, I know it's going to be 7% less weight, maybe, because my velocities are just down so much from being cooped up in a plane for 30 hours or airports for 30 hours. So that's one way, you've got traveling athletes, but velocity is just another way of linking sets, reps, percentage 1 RM, and effort together. So it gives you that fourth factor. And if you think about, there used to be only 2 ways you could tell if you were stronger. There used to be, you could lift the same amount of weight, but do more repetitions. So you used to be lifted, say, 100 kilos and do 5, now you can do 7, therefore you're stronger. Or you lift more weight for the same repetitions. I used to lift 110 for 1, now I can lift 115 for 1. I'm stronger. So either more weight, the same reps, or same weight, more reps. Now we have these other methods. If we lift the same weight and our velocity has increased by at least 0.05 meters per second, we are stronger. So I don't have to even go so hard to work out if I'm stronger. If I have a higher velocity score, lifting the same weight, I am stronger.
Yeah. Well, what you alluded to at the very beginning of that is absolutely why I love velocity. This training, velocity-based training is, you come off. I mean, these athletes, they deal with various levels of stresses in their life. Be it girlfriends, be it game day, be it school or academics or whatever it may be, and they're not coming in 100% every single day. And so able to find out exactly where they're at for that day and get the most productive, efficient workout in that moment that you can is best. And that works both ways. That's when they're stressed, but it's also when they're feeling good for that day. You know,
Yeah.
go. So I agree with you 100% on that. You know, I use with our programs, I use Gym Aware. I know you used almost everything. I think mostly push at this point. I mean, both of those things are tech that costs money. You know, what about the coach that doesn't have the ability, doesn't have a lot of money in their program? What advice would you have for those coaches?
Well, you can just use a stopwatch. So we use a lot of that. We used to just use a rule on what people call now a dynamic effort day, but we'd call power day. 1 second per rep plus 1. So if you're doing 5 reps on explosive bench, it would have to take it 6 seconds. Something like that. That you'll know if you use that formula for bench or something like that, or any pressing movement. 1 second for rep plus 1, it'll work. You'll have good speed. So if you're doing 6 reps, it's done in 7 seconds. If it's 3 reps, it's done in 4 seconds. Something like that. That's a good formula. But in a lot of these things like push, they're coming down in price. They're maybe, I don't know, $360 US, something like that. So prices are a lot cheaper than when I started the Broncos. We bought a velocity measuring device. It was $20,000 in 1996 money. So
yeah,
the prices have come down a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I love that actually. A second per rep plus 1, and you said that's on pushes. Anything on like lower body then, like a squat?
Yeah, it's really hard. You can do it on lower body as well, but it's hard on lower body because then you have to, if you're jumping or you got that time in the air and all that, or you got to realign sometimes on top of a squat. So if you can get a rep done in 1 second on a squat, that's pretty good because that means you're going to be moving the bar at about 0.9 meters per second, which is pretty fast for a squat.
Yeah.
So if you can, So the concentric phase, you're looking at maybe 500 or 600 milliseconds if you can time that. So it's pretty hard to time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So just start and stop at the rep 1. So you can time squats the same, just do 1 second per rep, but let them realign, get their breath and in between reps. So you can just keep hitting the stopwatch.
Right. Well, not to mention, as we get older, our stopwatch finger gets a little bit slower. What about
what's very slow?
You're always so far ahead, on things. I mean, people are catching up now in terms of velocity-based training and having an understanding of that strength curve and where you should be. I mean, what's not being done with the being able to measure velocity? That's the next step in the evolution.
I don't know. I think everything we can really measure is being measured. Obviously, you get a device like Gym Aware, it gives you far much more data than, say, a push. And you pay for that premium. That way, in a Gym Aware, you can look at even portions of the eccentric or concentric. So it can be done if you want it. It's just how much data do you get and how much analysis do you do, Whereas push just gives you the concentric velocity data. You can't delve into it deeper at this stage, how it's set up. But so I think everything's being done that you can. It's just then a case of how much do we analyze as a coach. As a coach, you can't be, you've got lots of athletes. You can't be analyzing every rep for every person deep down, eccentric, concentric. It just, I say to people, there's only 2 numbers that count: your best number in a rep and the last rep of the set. Because the best rep tells you your strength level. The last rep tells you your effort level, or how far away from complete fatigue you are.
Yeah.
I say, and listen, all I want to do is record your best rep. So that's all we do for the set is write down their best rep. Okay, because I get them to write down the effort level anyhow. So effort level will be exactly what I should have been, because I write it in for, this is effort level 7, I left effort level 8. So I don't need to then write down the last rep. I know it's roughly going to be. I just want to know their best rep. So, don't go too far down the rabbit hole of analysing way too much stuff on velocity. Just get your best rep out for that set, and that tells you where you're at.
Yeah, I love that. You know, one of the things I respect the most about you is the fact that you're a true practitioner. You're not just talking about it, but you're, like you said before, I don't know if it was off camera or not, but you got a heavy squat session coming up. You based off your travel, you know what you're going to be hitting or what you should be hitting. One of the, what's some of the biggest mistakes that you see being made, not just in velocity-based training, but just in strength and conditioning in general, where, for example, I mean, to me, sometimes there's so many of these coaches that just want to sit behind a computer and crunch data as opposed to get under a squat bar themselves. What are some of the biggest things that you're seeing?
Well, if they want to collect crunch data, we call them a sports scientist, not a strength conditioning coach.
Yeah.
So in Australia, we differentiate between the two. There's two separate qualifications. You've got to be in two different organisations. If you're really into data, you're a sports scientist. And if you're on the floor and you're hands-on, or on the field, park, pitch, you're a strength conditioning coach. So sometimes people don't know what they are, don't know what their strengths are. If you're really good at data, you're a sports scientist. That's fine, but that's your job. Get someone who's good at strength conditioning to do the hands-on stuff. And the other thing is, some people in Australia, it's different. Personal training is not strength conditioning. A personal trainer is not qualified to do strength conditioning.
Yeah.
So, but I see a lot, through social media, and that people are confusing strength conditioning, personal training in the US and in Europe. It's totally separate things. We have to look at the long-term development of the athlete, what we're doing this season, this week. And a lot of people who are personal training based, trying to work with athletes, they come in and say, hey, I'm going to give the athlete a really hard workout today. Not a CrossFit workout, but or could be a CrossFit workout, but something that could be really metabolically hard, just so they think, I'll just do that today. Well, what if the athlete's got basketball who's got a game in 2 days?
Right.
So there's no real periodization of their training. It's, hey, whatever's cool this week, whatever I saw on social media this week, I'll do some Metcon workout that'll make them really sore. Hey, well, that's great if you're doing personal training and that's what your client wants, but we can't do that with athletes just because it's cool or trendy. We have to have a program where we have, objectives we work to in consideration with the age of the athlete, the training age of the athlete, time of the year, the season, and when they compete and so on, and what we're trying to actually achieve with them. So I see too many people just doing random workouts to leave the athlete, really sore and hard and sore and with the hard workouts just for the social media benefit of the workout rather than the development of the athlete.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You alluded a little bit to the difference in the Australian system versus like the US system or the UK system. Talk a little bit about the differences there and essentially the mission of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association.
Well, if you take the UK SCA, NSCA or CSCS in America, currently, as they sit and throughout the history, there's a one flat level of certification. In Australia, we have 4 levels of certification and 7 different strata that define coaches based on this their course certification, how many years of experience they have, and at what level of experience they have. So if you have, 3 years working with 17 to 21-year-old athletes, that's good, but that's not as good as someone who's worked 12 years with Olympic athletes or pro athletes. It's a different level that you're given in the professional coaches certification. So that when an employer at a pro rugby team or something, they can put in the job description must be ASCA level elite or something like that. So instead of getting 400 applicants and someone is having to sit and go through 400 applicants, the all have NSCA, CSCS or something like that, you can okay, I've got 6 applicants or 12 applicants. So it's very good. Employers love it because they save time not having to sift through hundreds of graduate applicants who have limited experience. Or you can lower the level down, you get lots of applicants, but you get what you get.
Run through those 4 levels really quick. What are the 4 levels?
Well, we have a level 0, which is just for mum and dad, soccer mums and footy dads, which is no barbells, just movement and bodyweight exercises. basically it's like if you're a soccer mum or footy dad and you're helping out for the Pee-wee team, the under 11s or 12s, it's to show you how to warm up kids and do sprint technique and some body weight and movement exercises. We call it "Don't Kill the Kids." You'll get some dad of 12-year-olds. He wants to put in the Nebraska squat program or something, to a bunch of 12-year-olds and kill them. So basically, level 0 is not a professional level. It's like level 0. Don't kill the kids, mum and dad. Okay. Don't worry about what the pros are doing. This is what 11 and 12-year-olds should do. Then we have level 1, which is entry level. And we do this is mainly for university students who are still not completed, but it allows them to gain some work experience, and also personal trainers who do want to work with some athletes. So it's our level 1 certification. And then we have level 2, which is to be a professional strength coach. And that's a pretty solid certification. It gets pretty hard. It's almost like a graduate diploma in a way, because you don't have to have a college degree to be a strength coach in Australia. So that's why we have to have different levels.
Right.
Australia's an egalitarian society. So you don't have a college degree, but you do have to do these levels. So level 2 is pretty solid. That's what you need, basically. Level 3 is just, if you want to do it, it's a different type of course. You sit in a room and with 20 other level 3 applicants for a week, and you have to present on your programs and be quizzed by them, etc.
Right.
So it's an in-depth learning experience at the coalface with 20 other people who are quizzing you. Why do you do that? So you can present 10 or 15 minutes, be quizzed 10 or 15 minutes, 4 times a day. It's not vicious. It's just an incredible learning experience to submerge yourself with 20 other people from different sports or teams, and the level 3 is pretty intense like that. But level 2 is quite hard. So you don't need to do level 3. That's just if you really want to push your career and immerse yourself in the learnings of 20 other people for 1 week at a time. It's a quantum leap in learning, level 3, to take you from an experienced coach to maybe, if you want to be a high performance manager, because then you're getting 20 people's experiences in 1 week.
Right.
So
well, that's fantastic. And I've been, I came down a couple of years ago to the ASCA national conference, or international conference. I'm not sure what it's called, but just a fantastic event, and highly recommend anybody that can attend, make sure that they attend. But, ASCA has been a huge partner to me and play and things that we've been doing as well. And just think the world of the organization as a whole, for sure. Coach, we end the episode with some resources. Give us the best piece of coaching advice you ever received. Don't kill the kids, I guess, right?
Best. The head coach of my professional rugby team, he said, had a saying, are you a coach with 20 years of experience, or 1 year of experience repeated 20 times? And that idea of that is, don't be a guy who repeats the same thing for 20 years and say you're 20 years experience. Grow and develop, be organic and develop and keep learning. So have 20 years of experience, not do the same thing every year and think you've got 20 years of experience. So
absolutely.
Keep learning. And he's still head coach at that team. He's 69.
Really?
So, yeah.
He's doing something right. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
What about a book, app, website recommendation?
I think the best book is the one edited by David Joyce, High Performance Sport.
Yeah.
I've got a chapter in that, and a lot of my friends got a chapter in that. Like the coaches I really respect, Jeremy Shepherd, Dr. Sophia Nymphius, I think Greg DuPont. I mean, there's a lot of people. I'm leaving out names here, but there's lots of really good people got a chapter in that book, and it's and then not all the chapters agree. Some people disagree on certain stuff, and people say, "Oh, what about you said this and stuff?" Yeah, well, that's his opinion, and that's what you're gonna get in sport,
right?
You can't have a bunch of yes men write a book and whatever. So that's a pretty good book when you're at a certain level of knowledge. Obviously, if you're at a lower level of knowledge, just the essentials of strength conditioning from the NSCA is pretty good, I think. So if the essentials is below you, or you've already read that and looking, go to High Performance Sport. Website, lots of good websites. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to say my website's got some stuff on there, but it's pretty basic. ASCA website, NSCA website. There's lots of good information. I don't think getting information now is as hard like it used to be for us like 20, 30 years ago, Ron. It's now, I think people have got too much information. They don't know how to collate it and put it in a progressive manner. So they're overwhelmed by information. So I try and steer people to where we simplify the information and say, yeah, there's all this information there and all these things work, but this probably tends to work better with lower level athletes. Keep it simple, stupid. You don't need fancy this. So sometimes I'm reluctant to point people to too much new information. How about using or utilizing the information that we have in a better manner? So I try and put them to places like that.
Agreed. No, I couldn't agree more. Well, Coach, I always do this at the end of the episodes, but I mean, you're a guy that I've respected for so long, looked up to for so long, and just the contribution to the field. I mean, it's one thing to stay in your lane and just do a great job as a coach. It's quite another thing to help better the body of knowledge, to give back to the strength and conditioning community, to still get out there and speak and produce resources and be a part of associations and all those things. And you do it. I mean, I don't think you've ever said no to anything that I've asked or anybody that I know has reached out to you, and just such a great resource for our profession, a great ambassador. And I just want to thank you for being who you are, how you do your job, and being a part of this show for sure.
Thanks, Ron. And same thing to you, mate. You're doing a great job promoting strength conditioning around the world. I know we're both in Poland this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you're in China last week. I was in China the week before. I'm in China again 2 weeks. I'm in India in 2 days. So we're both.
Yeah, you've got me beat. You got me beat for sure. Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate you.
No worries, mate.
That's it for this episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Thanks to this week's guest as well as our sponsors for bringing this episode to you for free. Make sure to check out ronmckeefery.com, where you can join our mailing list, find the show notes, including all the links and resources mentioned, and information about Coach McKeefery's other products. While you are there, please join Coach McKeefery in the comments section thanking our guest for sharing. If you haven't subscribed to Iron Game Chalk Talk on YouTube or iTunes yet, make sure to do so. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome. Coach McKeefery can be found on Twitter at @RMcKeefery, on Facebook and YouTube at /Ron.McKeefery. That's it for this week. Be sure to check back next week for another great episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk.